We don't need the drip too strong early on. We got to set a precedent.
Right.
We're going all black motif today.
Podcast. You're listening to the Stripped Podcast by the Lacrosse Flash, talking all things life and lacrosse with Tyson Geik and Colton Clark.
Once again, Burn, shot, shoulder saver, off the post! Oh, it goes in, are you kidding me? Looks like it trickled in.
Almost knocked my beer over again.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Strip Podcast, episode number 4. Today on the podcast, we have a native of Victoria, BC, a Saanich Tiger in the Victoria Minor Systems, a junior A Shamrock, a graduate of Mercyhurst University, a senior A Shamrock where he won 2 Man Cups, drafted by the Rochester Nighthawks, traded to the Anaheim Storm, then off to Minnesota, traded to Edmonton, where he ended his career. Now he resides in the hometown of Victoria, BC, where he is currently a play-by-play broadcaster for the Colorado Mammoth, and also recently named the NLL favorite insider. Welcome, Teddy Jenner.
Gentlemen,
What a resume, man.
what's going on?
Let's cheers
I
that.
like that last one
I like
the
that.
most. Favorite NLL insight.
My mom loves that one the most. Cheers, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Yeah, I was excited for you when I heard that news.
Great to have you on, though, Teddy. We have been talking about this for a while. You've been a big supporter of Stripped and just the podcast since it was a twinkle in Colton in my eye.
That was a long time ago. You guys twinkled many years ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, I think we originally brought up the idea over a year ago, right? We bought the podcast equipment, and then after episode 1, we were reached out by our new sound guy, Ben Jeffries, telling us that our equipment was dog shit. He would come in and save the day for us.
So Ben deserves all the credit.
Ben deserves all
We
the credit.
just look better with
Yeah, we
reaching
look-
arms in here with mics on them and, colorful socks
I
on
could have
the
worn
mics.
my headset.
That would have looked even cooler.
Right?
Episode 5 will make...
we should have got both of you guys in suits. And
We don't need the drip too strong early on. We got to set a precedent.
Right.
We're going all black motif today.
Well, we
right,
did,
yeah.
Teddy. You were one of our first ever guests on Relax, which was solid in Colorado.
in Colorado. Yeah,
That
we
was
did
that
live.
was probably looking back on that whole project. Rest in peace. Was one of my favorite episodes. We got into the nacho story. There were some things that we obviously couldn't get into, but no, that was a lot of fun. And it just it's so much better when you have personalities kind of all able to come together and work together to kind of achieve a common goal. And this is something that you've been at for so long, man. I have a ton of respect for you. We became friends years ago, but for over a decade now, you've been doing Off the Crosse Bar? Oh, not quite.
Not quite. So
Getting there, though.
Yeah. So I stopped playing in 2008.
Yeah.
And even my last couple years, I was already writing about the National Lacrosse League. I
Yeah.
was using a pseudonym on the
on the
Rude
Twitter.
Boys. On when
Boys.
Rude Boys was around, Shaden Santos and Colin Doyle and Paul Tutka had Rude Boys. So I was writing under a pseudonym for their site while I was still playing the WLA and the NLL. So I was still kind of chirping some guys, and I was kind of saying some things that you usually wouldn't say.
So it's like a burner account.
It was like a burner account.
Okay.
But it was a blog like a blog article type thing. So that's kind of where I started. And then once I got out of the game, I worked for the family and sold cars for a bit and hated my life every step of the way. Not really, but it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And my dad found Columbia Academy, which was a radio school just down the road from here, from where we are, and over here in Vancouver. And I went to that and got back into the radio world, worked at 1040. And that's when I started Off the Crosse Bar as a radio show. That's when it originally started. So that was, debuted May 3rd, 2010. So that was my dad's birthday.
There you go. You're coming up on a decade, buddy.
Holy crap. Yeah, I guess it is.
It's impressive.
congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, it started as a radio show. I sold the airtime to the BC Junior League and the WLA, and so they were my 2 main sponsors. And TSN 1040 was fantastic to help me get it on the air. And so we started for the next couple years of doing the radio show, weekly radio show that covered the WLA and covered the NLL. And once I moved back to Victoria in 2012. I was literally recording it on Friday nights in Victoria and then sending it to the radio station to air Saturday nights.
Yep.
But by that time, things would have already happened. Yeah. And so sometimes the news gets out or the show airs and it's delayed and news isn't on there, or say the guys on this team, he's just been traded 24 hours ago. So that's when I stepped back from doing the radio show that way and just turned into a podcast. And it actually helped the podcast grow because I didn't have to worry about time constraints. I could keep guests on for as long as I wanted. We could cover a varying range of topics, and it's just continued to grow. And the guys that have been a part of the show over the years, as you guys know, talking lacrosse guys, they're always willing to tell their stories.
Yeah.
They're always willing to give up time, and they can make time for you. And some guys are shy. And some guys, or especially the younger guys who are just getting in the league, aren't the greatest communicators. But then you get some guys that just don't shut up, which is the best because you can just ask a simple question and they can go on for stories. And you talked about personalities. And I think one of the biggest things is, people can be nervous in front of a camera, but once they relax and settle down, they open up more. And being on a phone is a lot tougher. You talked about this with Curtis Dixon and how he said, he's tired of being on podcasts where guys ask the same questions over and over again.
Yeah.
Curtis, I'm sorry. I'll come up with better material next time.
Not meant to throw you under the bus, dude.
but
not meant to do that. That's not what we're here for.
No. But it's true because when you're having a conversation on the phone, it's pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
And it always still sounds kind of contrived in your conversation unless you can find that comfortable zone with a guy that you know pretty well.
Right.
So when you can get guys in front of cameras and get guys to open up, it just creates a better communication level, and it creates better storylines because guys just have that comfortability to be able to talk.
Well, I think that's what we kind of want to do here too, is like create those ongoing stories. And you know what I remember, and I appreciated the messages from all those at the Lacrosse Flash when I won, the Media Person of the Year with the NLL. Not a big deal.
Bigdeal.com.
But what you did say in that, and I'll remember this, is the big team guys and whatever. We had little ongoing things that became, they spread out and fans kind of caught on with them and
became part of our culture, as odd as it sounds.
Yeah, for sure. And already with Stripped, we've got like hot bags that people are talking about, and there's going to be little topics that come up.
Absolutely.
They're reoccurring topics.
I can't read.
And Colt can't read.
That is going to be my favorite segment of all time. The Colt can't read segment.
It turned into reading mean tweets to Colton can't read tweets.
Ruthless tweets with Curtis Dixon's.
It's just an inside joke that I think that I'm trying to read out their tweets, but you guys are just laughing at me because I can't read tweets.
But that's the best part, right? From content to characters and personalities, that's what sports is all about. That's what the National Lacrosse League is about. It's just about guys who love the sport and love talking about it, but also we're all guys. We all have ego. We love talking about ourselves, right? Like listen to you read my resume. Like that's a pretty damn cool resume. Like when I look back and think of some of the things that I've done,
right?
You've accomplished some shit.
It's phenomenal, and I've been a part of some unbelievable stuff. I've been on things that I don't want to forget, but are forgettable.
Anything
elaborate on that?
Well, it's 2 1-15 teams in the National Lacrosse League. That's a thing that I'll probably go to my grave with.
Yeah.
The times in Anaheim were brutal. We played in front of literally nobody in Arrowhead Pond, which was a phenomenal arena right downtown in Anaheim. It's a great spot.
Did you live there when you were there?
No, it's funny. I was going to move down with Chris Panos. And we were going to live down there together and get a place. And I think Cam Bergman was going to join us. We were going to have a house down there.
I played with Bergie.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
Yeah.
And it was just all part of the process of why that team was folding and not being very successful. They would say, oh, yeah, we're going to get you this. This is going to happen. And then it wouldn't happen. And then, we ended up starting to try and find apartments on our own. Okay, well, here's this 3-bedroom Newport Beach. We were trying to find the best spots for the cheapest price, and we were finding them. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll get right on it. Next thing you know, no, nothing. We're just going to fly you guys in. I'm like, well, that's your dime.
Just not set up for success, right? It was built to crumble.
Yeah, but again, that was in a great spot. Minnesota was phenomenal. I can't wait for the league to go back there. They definitely need to go back because that's a fan base that was ripped of its team. And
they're still choked. You'll see comments from fans posting on certain NLL posts
and
saying, "Hey, give us our team."
And those were 2 great years. Marty O'Neill did a phenomenal job with our group back then, and we had a ragtag group. Chad Culp was there, Scotty Campbell was there. I was playing in the game where Scott Campbell was playing defense, and AJ Shannon cut across the crease and dove. Soupy was on the backside, and AJ crashed into his leg and broke his leg above his ankle. And now Soupy's still playing. That's probably 2006, 2005, 2006.
And he put up a career year or 2 seasons
better
ago.
than he's ever been.
Yeah.
So
Who are we talking about?
Scott Campbell plays in Halifax now.
Call him
Soupy.
Campbell.
So that was 2 years in Minnesota, or that was a year in Minnesota. Craig Kahn was there. We had a filthy team, but we got caught up in a lot of the extracurriculars outside that first year, which tends to happen. And then I got shipped off to Edmonton, and I got
to worry about doing extracurriculars there.
There's nothing
to do.
Well, funny thing is we had Jamie Bowen on our team, and old lacrosse fans and maybe some fans from out west will know the Jamie Bowen name. But he had a bar in Edmonton, the Thirsty Turtle. And so that was one of the, right on White Ave. So that was one of the spots we used to go to. We had this post-game bar that was outside of downtown Edmonton called Dante's. And it was just this building in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they would take us there in limo buses right from the rink, drive us there, drop us off.
Glory days.
The guy was there waiting for us whenever the bar closed and the night was over.
Where's that today?
Bruce Urban runs a pretty tight ship in Saskatchewan now. So,
I mean, those guys are rock stars in that town. So
yeah, I got a couple buddies in that town, and they all know about the Rush. They know who the guys are. But the league continues to grow, and I talk about good things and bad things in the world of lacrosse and my career, and I'm happy to say that I was a part of 3 brand new franchises that kind of helped get the National Lacrosse League off the ground and kind of get to a peak point. And I'm sure we'll talk about this, but the mid 2000s, NLL was peaking, and George Daniels was doing an incredible job of trying to grow the game. I think he got a little too big for his britches at one point and trying to bring too many teams in. But he set the model for what Nick is trying to do now and go to NBA teams and NBA or NHL arenas and get those owners to buy our teams and be a part of this league. So it's a pretty cool experience to look back and know my first year I played with Junior and Willie and Kurt Milosky and Dewey Jacobs and Tim Soudan and Reggie Thorpe, legends back in the day. And then now I go through full circle. In my last year, I'm playing with Andy Turner and Rob Williams and Matt Disher again and Patty Campbell and guys from my hometown. It was a hell of a career. I loved every minute of it, but now I get to call all these games and all these guys.
In that career that you had, what's the one standout moment you'd say from your entire time playing in the NLL? I'm assuming at that point you were single.
Yeah.
You were single.
Well, no, I was not.
No, you weren't single. Okay.
Well, that changed quick.
Which of those teams that you played in, or maybe back in the day, now, guys talk about which hometowns are the best for, for girls, which have the best girls, which city has the best girls. Today, I think it's Colorado,
even
Calgary,
Colorado, still up there, Calgary.
But back when you were around,
Sask is actually a
Sask now,
underrated, man.
Yeah, it is. But back then,
you speak from experience, Tyson.
No comment.
Well, Buffalo's Buffalo, right? It's cold, but there are a lot of cool bars in Buffalo. There's a lot of great places to go. Always had fun in Buffalo because you could find anything you really wanted in nightlife or food wise or lady wise. It was always there.
Buffalo's got a nice little strip there.
And they had a bar called the Coliseum at one point. It was a 4-story building and had probably 9 different bars in it. Each floor had 2 different styles of bar.
Really?
So you walk in and the first floor is just like a nightclub. Then you would go up the stairs. The second floor would be a jazz bar and hip hop. Go up the stairs, there'd be EDM and punk rock. And then all the way at the top, there's a sky bar.
We had one of those in Louisville, Kentucky when I was going to school. It was insane. I remember walking in my freshman year. I was 19 years old or 18 years old. I had my brother's fake ID, but I was walking into this bar that had 8 different bars in it. I think it was called O'Malley's or something like that. I probably butchered that name. But anyways, something like that. And it was just the same thing. It was a country bar, a hip hop club, all under the same roof. And it was just such an insane thing to see. And you could just jump around.
One of the best ones was Arizona. When I was playing for Anaheim, we had an afternoon game there on a Saturday or a Sunday.
What was the crowd like there?
Pretty dismal.
Yeah.
Pretty dismal. That was maybe their first or second year in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that was when, so for people that don't know, when they played in Arizona, they played at Glendale, not in downtown Scottsdale. So the Glendale Arena at the time was right beside where the Cardinals play. And it was literally just the football stadium and the hockey rink. That was all that was out there in the middle of Arizona and Glendale, because they were building the community of Glendale around the arena. So when we first started playing there, you drove out there and there was literally nothing.
You're starting to see that a lot more too in any professional sports. Is like arena districts. Like Edmonton's doing that now with the Ice District, and Columbus has it. And
So we played an afternoon game there, and you get out of the rink, it's 4:35, and most places are like, what the hell are we gonna do? Well, you're in Arizona. You go to a bar that's got an outdoor patio and horseshoes and beach volleyball, and it's just packed with people, and you're just like, all right, this is cool. I can get down with this. I'm okay with this. Yeah. It was a good time. It was a good time. But, we all know the lacrosse NLL lifestyle. It's usually fly in the day before, get a practice in, get a meal, wake up the next morning, have shoot around, play a game, drink your face off, and get very little sleep before you have to get on a flight.
Oh, man. I remember.
And if you're in Calgary and you're lucky enough, you can go to the Chili's in the airport that's open at 8 and will still serve you beer. It was, you could find the party going. Just keep the party going. You would find the spots, and everyone would always know the later night spots where you could go to keep on drinking, or the places where you could get beer in the airports. Or
I remember that going. This is back in the day. Actually, funny you bring up Buffalo. I went down to meet up with Jay Card. Yeah. And he was playing for Minnesota at the time.
We haven't actually introduced Jay Card on the show. You've mentioned Jay a few times on this podcast.
Has Jay been brought up?
You've never mentioned his full name. You said Jay, and you said Jay Card. But you've never actually said
Jay Card.
Jay Card.
Well, you said Jay Card.
Like Jay Dot Card.
Okay, sure. So I go down. I met up with Jay and
Jay.
Yes,
Card.
CARD.
There we go. See, now fully mentioned.
There you go. It's bring him to life. So go down to meet up with him, and Irvs was playing at the time. So Travis Irving was playing for Buffalo. We're gonna have to have him on because that kid is man, what a character. But so went to meet up with them. We all went out. Some of the guys from Minnesota, Buffalo, got back after the bar to the hotel, and all the guys were kind of like chilling in the lobby, and left for the airport at like 4 a.m. Didn't even go to sleep.
Yeah. In Everett, I want to say a little bit. In Everett, we would literally party in the hotel lobby.
Yeah.
And like sit in. I used to, when I was calling games for the Washington South when they had moved up from San Jose, I was doing their in-house announcing, and they would play their games, and they had a bar in the arena.
Yeah.
Right up on that main floor, the ice box that they called it was perfect. It was an unbelievable spot, and a fantastic arena. I really liked when they played in Everett. But they would be there, and they would stay till the bar closed. And then everybody always had boxes of beer in the room for late night anyway.
Yeah, of course.
And so they'd all just go up to the rooms and come back in the lobby and sit in the lobby and just plunk their case of beers right beside them and just sit there in the lobby and get puddled. And both teams would be there. And so everybody's hanging out, and there's fans hanging out, and that,
That's one of the coolest things about the NLL too. Like when two teams are kind of in the same market, how many guys have played with one another or gone to school with one another or are a friend of a friend? And then, the degrees of separation are so minimal.
And nowadays with guys going to college, the bonds continue to build even more. But, it was crazy because, back then they would put teams in the same hotels because it cut costs, right? Easy, one hotel deal. Well, guys started getting a little out of hand, and the party started going a little late, and complaints started becoming a little more often. And so they kind of started putting teams in separate hotels.
Yeah.
But you're never going to keep the boys apart.
Like, even when I was in the league, that was 6 years ago now, but we would stay in the same hotel as the guys that flew in. And I remember when we were in Edmonton, name goes under mention, but there was guys, we were partying all night long with the other team, right after the game. So.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts about our sport, right? Is because we're all friends. There's a few people that you're enemies with, and you may have a real disdain for that person. When the game's on, it's full on hatred, right?
Yeah.
As soon as that game's over, you get out of that post-game bar, it is a completely different scene to watch two guys that just went toe-to-toe in a game, and then to see them with ties wrapped around their head, dancing on speaker boxes on the dance floor, just having a great old time because they're best friends.
Yeah.
it's a really cool part about it. Yeah, it's a really cool part about our league that we still have that. And I know there's a lot more guys that, I don't want to say take it more seriously because they all do, but there's more guys that, there are a lot of guys that still let loose after the games, right? And just get after it. And when you see them the next morning and they're trying to find their wallet or their passport to check out of the hotel and get onto the plane, and they realize, oh crap, I left in the cab, or it's back to the hotel, or you know what, I'm just going to skip my flight. Who cares?
Well, these guys are professional athletes, but they're human beings too. And some of the hardest working human beings you'll find, because they're grinding Monday to Friday. And then they're going into a weekend where they're going to practice, shoot around, game. And then, you need a Friday or a Saturday night to kind of let loose and have some fun with the boys when you're on the road, because you're right back at it on Monday. And like
1,000%.
The game takes a toll on your body. The traveling takes a toll on your body. So yeah, I mean, have a little fun, right? And I think we want to kind of highlight that too, not incriminate guys and you know, tell the worst stories. But I think like, when I'm listening to a podcast, like that's the kind of shit that I want to hear about. I'm listening to like Spittin' Chicklets. I'm hearing about the hockey stories and stuff. That's what I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn this up.
Yeah, I remember in Anaheim, it was early on, and I think it was actually maybe even after our first or second camp. It was maybe our last camp before we kind of started the season. We wanted to get the word out. Yeah. And we had rented
like a promo tour.
Yeah, like a promo tour in like downtown Anaheim and SoCal. And so we had a limousine. It was me, older Evie,
Scott.
Sean. Who's the other one? Scott, Sean, and
the forgotten brother.
Steve Evans, and Cam Bergman, Casey Powell was there, and we had this limo, and we had a bunch of the cheerleaders on our dance team that were with us. And they basically had stalked a limo. And we were just going around, driving around. And by the end of the night, Usher was playing the, hey, whatever the heck that song was, like back in the day. You know the song I'm talking about? That one, yeah.
Yeah.
You want the guitar? Or?
I got a pick.
You got a pick? But like we were literally, they had allowed us to be ourselves and let loose a little bit, but we were doing a promo tour. Mm-hmm. We were going around to these different bars and handing out tickets and just being complete idiots, but still understanding why we were doing it.
Well, and I've said this before too, and what I want to do, one with Stripped and the Lacrosse Flash and anything, and I wish I had more of a budget to do it so I could do it full time, but like I want to make guys look like rock stars, because people are going to follow along with guys that look like rock stars. They're living that real professional life. They want to follow them on social media. They want to go to the games to watch them and interact with them after, and maybe what bar are they going to be at, and really, you know, put these guys up on a bit of a pedestal, not obviously inflate egos too much, but make them look like the professional athletes that they are.
Well, right? the funny thing is, or maybe it's ironic, I'm not sure which word you want to do, but the hope is in 5-10 years, we don't have that lifestyle in our league anymore. Right. So it may be a dying lifestyle in pro lacrosse.
This is the twilight zone, right? For
the twilight years.
What do you mean? Like, the party years?
Yeah. So the goal for the league, and by 2023, they want to be at 16 teams.
Yeah.
So that's a plan of adding 3 more teams between now and then. And then they want to get to where it's full-time athletes, full-time pay with a full-time schedule.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, then I don't think you're going to see guys, because guys aren't going to be traveling from hometown to wherever they're playing. They're going to be living in market, flying together, all that stuff is the ultimate plan again. And so you'll kind of lose that lifestyle.
So maybe, but you think like when I was living in Colorado, I lived with a player whose brother played in the NHL at the time and still does. Rory Smith.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, they kind of fill us in a little bit about how NHL players live, and those guys allegedly party the night before games, because oftentimes they're flying out right after their game. So I think that you can change the game, you can change, you know, the atmosphere, you can give them more money, but guys are always going to find a way to party.
And I can attest there are guys that I know throughout the league now that are still that way, that the night before games, whether it's a nervous thing, whether it's a mental thing, are still out hacking darts, drinking beers, getting stoned, whatever you want. Like there are guys in our league that still do all that stuff.
Well, and I
don't blame them, because it is a stressful lifestyle.
But you gotta kind of highlight the fact that if you were to watch those guys play, I don't think there are certain players.
Come on.
Nice. Can't read, can't drink. Colt's got a drinking problem.
Ben's got the drinking problem. That's
So my point was that if you're hearing that, you're like, well, what a degenerate, whatever. But if you actually watch them on the floor,
I don't think that at all. I don't
some of
think
them, no. I mean, I don't. But if someone listening on who's maybe
some may
like
take that vantage.
old school, like, oh, shame. But if you watch them on the floor, there are guys who do that the night before. You could never even tell. They'll go out and have the game of their life, and it won't even faze them.
I knew guys when I played in the WLA that would get beyond baked on their way to the game,
lasered,
and put up 6 points a night. Everybody has their own vices, but everybody has their own controls too. Like everybody, like people know their body and know what works. It's the same with diet. There are people who on game days, what Dixon said, he would eat whatever his girlfriend cooked for him at lunch, and then would maybe have a banana. Right? There's other guys that are like, I need to eat all afternoon up until my nap, and then when I get to the arena, I'm having this, and this. The other people, give me a pizza. Yeah. Oh, get Subway.
Do what works for you.
Yeah,
right?
Do what works for you. So everybody's different, and I think we need to still allow people to be able to go that route. But I do think that once this league takes the next step, some of that will change.
Do you think this league needs to like loosen up and lighten up a little bit in terms of like what's put out there? Because
how so? Like what do you mean? What puts out there?
We've talked about this on the podcast past 3 episodes, and I want to catch myself and not talk about it too much. But we want to do something different, and I think that Relax. We started to try to do something different, but we were kind of restricted in a sense, and still, a lot of what comes out is very vanilla.
No, and I agree, and I think part of that may be culture, because we're only starting to see that in other sports now as well, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
So
that's
we're
true.
only starting to see with the dawn of social media, with the dawn of instant access news.
It's like NBA kind of opened.
Yeah, but I think that was an NBA culture thing. I think in the NBA, those players are a lot more outspoken, a lot more brash than a lot of other sports. Yeah. So I think when they could allow their players to be a little more vibrant, a little more wild, a little more precarious in what they talk about and what they do.
But from a social media standpoint and a strategic standpoint, the league was choosing to release that information and, sharing certain players saying things coming from their own account. Like the NBA is doing it too. They're like, yeah, sign off on that. No problem.
Well, so you're wanting the NLL to retweet?
No, not necessarily.
Christian Del Bianco tweets saying
no.
that the guy who doesn't have enough goals should be getting majors.
I'm not sitting here necessarily, having the answer, because it's tough when the NLL is the primary supplier of like analysis, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's no TSN, there's no other outlets that are really covering them doing that. But there's got to be some sort of way where we do, give these guys a platform to just kind of be themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think in any business or entity, you have to allow your personalities to shine. I think all of that needs to get. I think, I truly believe that in our culture, and because of how close the Lacrosse family is, guys aren't going to want to throw other guys under the bus.
No.
Right? They're not. And, I'm sure we could all tell wild and crazy stories of guys being drunk, debaucherous, stupid, crazy ass things, right? But I think there's a time and a place for those stories, and sometimes to the public domain, that's not that place. So I think you're always going to get the reserved stories more than the far out stories.
Yeah.
If there's ever, you might get to the point where it's a guy who's so far out of the league that he's not still associated with the league and associated with guys in the league, that then he might be able to start telling those stories. Like I still have guys that I played with that are in the league. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't want to be telling that story. So if there's ever a day that, a Reese Dutch is out of the league, I'm just using Reese's name, but a guy that I know personally that I played with, until that guy is out of the league, then maybe those stories start to come out, kind of thing.
We spoke about that with Del Bianco, and like lots of times people mention us are like, are we trying to be like Spit and Chicklets? And me and Tyson kind of said, we can't be like Spit and Chicklets, right? Because it's not the same atmosphere. It's not we don't make the same kind of guys don't make the same kind of money where they have fuck you money, where it's like, you got the ex-NHLers who are now retired. They don't have any bosses to answer to. They can come on and tell all the stories they want about doing drugs, having sex with girls, like, that are the kind of stories that, yes, a lot of people want to hear. But the other kind of interesting stories that like we want to tell are, what players are doing in their personal lives, apart from the partying. We do want to hear that. Everybody loves hearing that, but what they're doing in the community. There's lots of guys that are working with charities, that are starting up their own lacrosse foundations, things like that.
And I'd like to get into that too. This has been a thought and kind of like a vision for the podcast where we have, and I've already spoken to a couple people about this, but like, maybe like a sports psychologist come on here and have a discussion with us about certain topics, or like a neurologist. Like what are the hits in lacrosse doing to your head? If you get in a fight, what's it doing? So on and so forth.
Crazy.
But
I can't read, so maybe that.
I just watched the Killer Inside, Mind of Aaron Hernandez.
We're talking about
too.
That. He was watching.
And
same with young Ben over there.
It's funny that you talk about neurologists and CTE, and I'm a guy that stopped playing because of concussions, and I was to a point where I was getting one a season at minimum.
Yeah.
And
like once you get one, it just opens the
it
doors
totally does.
For more.
And you can become aware of the symptoms, and to see what Junior Seau's brain looked like compared to a normal brain, and to see what Aaron Hernandez's brain looked like compared to a normal 27-year-old's brain, to see the damage that is done in violent collision sports is scary.
Yeah.
And our game is not as violent as football, but it is as physical.
Yeah.
And guys, because even bumping shoulders with a guy can rattle the brain.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I deal with depression. I deal with short-term memory loss and anxiety and all those things. And I'm happy that my inner circle of friends and family really pushed me to go get medical help and seek doctors' opinions to help me curb my depression, because I had a lot of bad times. And it would be vastly important to have neurologists and psychologists and sports therapists and all those different people on a show like this, or any of the podcasts or shows that are out there, just to open that door of communication. Because huge. Aaron Hernandez, they talked about it. When you're a power player in a sport, you have that mindset of fight through the pain. Yeah. Play through the injury.
It's $40 million, right? And
but $40 million, yes, I get that. But even in the National Lacrosse League now, it's a little different. They're taking concussions and headshots a lot more seriously in all sports. But 5-6 years ago, you could get a guy's bell rung and he would be Sean Evans, probably a prime example of a guy that's probably been hit so hard that he gets knocked out a bunch, right? Yeah. Myself, to say you'd get hit, you'd get knocked down, I got a headache, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
Oh man, I've seen.
And you'd go right back out there, right? Like it's because you don't want to look weak. You don't want to look soft.
The guy who doesn't come back in the game. Right. Can you imagine?
Or you're right on the cusp, like you're of being a full-time player, right? Like a younger guy gets hit who's like kind of in and out of the lineup, and he's having a great game. You're like, oh shit, I don't want to.
You don't want to jeopardize your spot.
I did that in Colorado. Like I hurt my wrist and I taped up my wrist and I was playing through the pain just so that I didn't lose that spot, because I was playing every game, and I'm like, fuck, like if I don't do this,
you're doing even worse damage to yourself.
Yeah.
And concussions is probably the worst thing to go back early from, because you're not letting that swelling in your brain subside. So like I said, I think it's great that our sport and all sports are doing a better job looking after headshots and head traumas and post-concussion issues, because at the end of the day, it is a really, really scary epidemic in football, in our sport, in hockey, boxing, like these full headshot contact sports. Like we're going to have more and more stories of these as the year goes on. Hopefully a lot of the stories are happier, that people are just dying of old age and want to donate the brains and they're not taking their own lives because they just can't handle the
or
pressure.
or others, right?
Or others,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think you got to open up the communication about that mental health, like you said, and hear it from notable athletes in the sport, or maybe coaches, and have coaches and general managers talking to their players about maybe a time when they struggled. I spoke with someone who's doing a TEDx talk in Bear Creek, so Surrey. And he came on and he kind of opened up the conversation on the radio with me. And I started talking to him about stuff that I've dealt with when it came to mental health issues. And he was like, do you see what just happened there? Because he brought it up. You know, I felt more comfortable
talking about it. Exactly.
So I think that needs to happen in the league for certain players when they're coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, and I think, again,
to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Just be open to the conversation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I coach the junior tier ones in Victoria, and I've had some of the kids' parents come up to me, you know, my kid's going through some tough time. He could just do someone to talk to. It's not us. And on our team, we have an open door policy where kids can text us, call us, come into our coach's room whenever they want. And just this past year, through the group of our kids on our team, one of their school friends committed suicide.
Wow.
And so
At a young age too, right?
And you know, these kids are 16, 17, 18 19 years old. So that's really affected a lot of them.
Right.
And last year I went through a major personal struggle because the guy who lived below me in my apartment building committed suicide, and I found his body outside my building.
Yikes.
And so I went through a massive mental trauma. And so I've had friends pass away from suicide, drugs, car accidents, all that stuff. So I kind of know what these kids are going through, like we all do, right? We've all had loss. So we have this open door policy that all these kids can come and talk to us. And it's funny because, you know, you can see that the kids want to talk.
Yeah.
But it's getting them to feel safe enough to talk.
Well, it's that relating. So if you're able to share your struggles or what you've been through as someone who played at a professional level and is now involved in the game professionally still, and you know, you're someone that they look up to. If you're like, hey, you know, this happened to me last, what was it? You know, summer.
It was the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
The anniversary of when my best friend committed suicide.
I remember the group chat and just being like, whoa, what happened? Like we didn't really know, but you know, hearing that, I think it's an awful thing to have happened, but it does open the communication up for the kids to, you know, I can relate with this guy. He understands me a little bit more, and you know,
it's a safer spot than for some of those kids than talking to their parents.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids feel that parents will judge them or
You
want them
gotta
to
be strong, right?
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the roles that we play as role models, as coaches, as athletes, that you have to be that safe spot for a lot of these people.
One of the things too is knowing your surroundings to that, right? It's one thing for you having, you know, those issues going on, but like you may think, okay, it's not that bad and it's not that bad. You don't really know how much it's affecting you to others. Like you got to look out for your buddies. If you see that your buddies, you know, is change of demeanor, things are going on in his life, he always seems down, you know, to look out for that. Like Tyson, you mentioned, I think it was last night, you're like, man, my mood, like just from like the job he was working, you know, he was down.
Taking on so much.
I could tell day after day, you know, it's like, I come home again, you're doing all right. So like it's being okay with asking your friend if he's okay too is another thing, you know, and opening that door sometimes for somebody who isn't, you know, maybe going to be the first person to say something that's going on.
I think one of the troubles though is we're so programmed to be like, good, how are you? Because it's such an element of small talk in our society. Yeah, you're like, you see someone, hey, how's it going today? Good, how are you? Right? It's just like a reactionary response.
Your response isn't going to be, oh, well, actually, yesterday the guy below me jumped out the window, committed suicide. I found his body and I've been feeling like shit for the past 3 days. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't look in my building. I can't go outside for a walk. I feel horrible. I probably should have done something. Like all those things go through your head. I don't want to bury Colton in those thoughts, right? Like, I'm having a great day, but thanks for asking.
I'll listen, man.
That's the thing, right? Like, just ask. Ask if someone's okay.
Yeah.
And if they say they're okay, great. Just then ask them again. And you don't have to pry it out of them. You don't have to force it on them, but just, you know, make sure, like Colt said, make sure you're in a safe spot. Like whether you're driving in cars together or just sitting at home playing video games, just like press pause, man. Like, You okay?
Yes. Speaking of which, Tyson knows. I'm going through a breakup right now, and Tyson, you haven't asked if I'm doing okay.
Because that breakup
okay?
will not last, my friend.
Oh,
that breakup will not last.
Oh, you don't think so?
No,
Return to sender.
I don't think it's the end of it. But
okay.
That's
so
it.
that's your theory behind it.
It is 100%.
Fair enough.
Because I know I'm gonna hear, "Hey babe, how are you?" in the other room. Yeah.
Is that why your hair is a little off disheveled this morning?
Yeah, no, but if you look, if you
Delves episode,
on the Delves episode, Tyson comes in. Literally, I was sitting here on Monday with Logan Schuss. We're watching The Bachelor because he's doing some scouting for
research for his next show. Yeah.
For his next show, and Tyson comes in and he's never said this to me before in my life. He's like, "Dude, you look like shit." I was like, "Fuck, okay."
No, what did I say? Did you get into one this weekend or what?
I did get high school drunk though. In fairness, there was some emotions going on throughout the weekend, but I did also get high school drunk on Saturday night with my buddies, and it was out till 4 a.m. Late night poutine.
Sometimes you gotta do it though.
I ended up couldn't get a cab home, so I ended up paying for a $70 limo. By myself. I was that.
Where were you?
I literally just remembered it. I was like, how did I get home?
Where were you?
We went to the Roxy Roller, man.
Okay, I've lived in this area.
Yeah.
That's a 20-minute walk home.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was snowing.
Dude, I've done it
it was Saturday snowing. Right?
I've done it before.
Saturday.
Vancouver, and nowhere in BC has Uber or Lyft, and I'm going to lose my mind. I remember coming home from Hotel Belmont, which is like same direction, right? And it's pissing rain out, like
it's coming. Uber's coming.
Rain.
Uber's coming.
And I was just soaking wet. Phone's dead. 2:00 in the morning. Can't get a cab to save my life. Everywhere is like taken, or if you ask him to kind of pull over.
Left his keys or lost his keys, so he's calling me.
No, not that wasn't this time.
Wasn't
That's happened
that was
before.
a different time.
So I get home. I'm screaming on the way home. Like got a serious buzz on, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, just get me a damn cab." I want to go home. It was like I went in the washer myself, like tucked myself in. I was drenched.
Yeah, I wasn't
brutal.
walking home. So
Winter's
that's
coming,
$70.
so relax.
Dude,
it's coming.
John Horgan said that like 3 years ago.
I'm going to apply to be a driver.
Are you?
I got nothing else to do.
Talk some.
I thought about
NLL
it.
shop
I do
room?
traveling sales. Like if I was going to Chilliwack and just like pick somebody up, like get paid to drive there. Be like,
I don't know if you can choose like that. I don't know how it works. You gotta
yeah.
get a class 4
Well, at
driver's
least somebody-
license, which
some-
is bullshit.
somebody along the way.
So I'm looking into that, right? Like I said,
Getting your class 4.
Yeah.
I hate that.
And so you literally have to like do air brakes
Air brakes. What?
for like semi trucks.
No.
Yeah, that's part of the class 4.
What?
Yes.
Really? It's not that hard. It can't be that hard.
Well, I don't think it'd be that hard, but like literally, so if you're gonna go and take your written test, because you still have to get a learners and do all that crap for
Why
your
do they
class.
make people jump
Ben,
through
can you bring
hoops?
that up? Is that facts?
That is a fact. Look it up. How to become
Class
an
4
Uber driver in BC.
Class 4 needs air brakes.
Okay, so this is what I'm looking into.
Okay.
So I went to the DMV the other day.
Yeah.
And hey, if I want to drive an Uber, what kind of license do I need? And she's like, oh, you need a class 4 because it's a commercial vehicle. It covers cabs, ambulances, semis, anything that can carry up to 10 people and over, like up to 10 people and then people of over that limit. And yeah, part of the process is knowing air brakes. I don't think you have to take an air brakes course.
You're like, but I drive a 5-seater
Yeah,
vehicle.
I'm driving a small SUV. What the heck do I need
You
air
might-
brakes
you
for?
might
So
flip the
but again,
script.
that's been part of the biggest issue of bringing Uber to BC is because they've been trying to figure out how to make it viable and what license you need and what insurance you need. And like I said this to my brother. I said, there's no way a cab driver can tell me anything about air brakes.
No chance. They can't even.
I heard it was.
They can't tell me where I live. When I tell them where I live, they can't figure it out.
No, but a lot of them turn you down. Like if you're not going far enough, they'll be like, they'll
is the
literally
worst.
drive off. There's nothing more that makes me want to catch up to them and scream in their face.
Got cash, bro?
What? Yeah.
You got cash, bro?
No.
When you pull
it's-
up, like it's
You got a card. You
It's
got a card.
2020.
Oh, you don't have cash? No, if I had fucking cash, I'd be paying with cash, dog. Like, idiot.
But I heard this because
What do you got, Ben?
Hello.
Yes.
Well,
I was ready to go over there.
Awesome.
I got nothing about air brakes, but you were right about the max up to 10 passengers. So you can be able to drive taxis, limousines, ambulances, and shuttle vehicles. That's class 4.
Yeah.
Shit.
Welcome to the broadcast, Ben.
Is that facing them good again?
What?
The
Oh
camera.
yeah, he's right on.
Good.
Right on. That was a super segue. That was a side tangent.
That's professional shit.
We've come a long way from episode 1, right? We had these shitty USB mics. Now we got producer Ben. We got someone to throw to.
You don't got
camera
crap
setups
equipment anymore. Like,
No, we
you
got
guys,
we got better beers and things to drink, better gas.
Whoa.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I'm the NLL's favorite. I don't think I'm the league favorite.
Right, let's get into that.
Those
Let's
other
get
guests
into
are
that.
great. What are
I
we
think
getting
you're,
into?
you're our front runner
okay,
for
so-
media person of the year. I mean, other than the guy who can't read, I think, newcomer
newcomer.
award.
Oh, you get best
you-
rookie of the year for sure.
I touched on this, like your persistence and sticking with off the crossbar. We're gonna have to have a little party, I think, for that would be awesome, eh? Maybe in like the NLL semis or something like that.
Little
If we have
get-together?
like a off the crossbar party, maybe I'll surprise you with that. Anyways, your persistence
Now
has
I'm
been
going to be surprised for the surprise.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what he was talking about.
no like an anniversary party, like a decade of off the
Oh,
crossbar.
May
Come on,
3rd,
man.
2020. I got you.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you go.
Okay, deal.
So, anyways, you stuck with it for so long, and finally, like I would say probably 2 years ago, Steve Govitt gives you the opportunity.
I think this is my 4th year in Colorado now.
no
Crazy.
Really?
Yeah. This is my 4th year. The first year was Govitt as GM. Second year was Dan Carey
year,
as GM.
I mean, you know better than I would, but
Concussions, memory. Hello. I can't remember.
I
dude.
think it's third. But
Okay,
anyways,
whatever.
third
Third or
or
fourth
fourth,
year.
whatever. So you get that opportunity from Govitt. He brings you down. You crushed it, dude. You were awesome on the broadcast. Enjoyable to listen to. The inflection in your voice is there. You were a natural, like a seasoned, pro, like you'd been doing it for your entire life. And now you're given a lot more opportunities. Going to the draft with the NLL, doing the rundown. Going to be in Vegas.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. How does it feel to have all that kind of come to fruition now? And it's been really cool to see with someone who's stuck with it for so long.
There was a lot of frustration in those early years.
Early years, like when you first started.
Yeah, and truly, I think a lot of my frustration was because I was working in the radio industry, and I was working at Team 1040 here in Vancouver, and I was learning the fact that there is the hierarchy, and that guys like Blake Price and Matt Sakaris and Barry McDonald and Don Taylor, like those guys aren't going anywhere. Even though they've been doing it for 15, 20, 30 years, they're still not going anywhere. So to have that mindset of like, oh, I'm going to be 3 years out of radio school and all of a sudden I'm going to get an afternoon drive show on like the #1 sports radio show in Western Canada. Like that's not going to happen, right? Like, so there was a lot of frustration and like, well, what the hell am I going to do? I can't get a job in the field that I want to be in. I want to be in sports radio. I can't find this job. And that's when I kind of moved back to Victoria and started calling Victoria Shamrock games and really getting into just what I love doing.
Making your own opportunity, kind of, right?
And it just so happened that Govitt was watching a Shamrock game one day and he tweeted out that night, besides our broadcasters in Colorado, I think Off the Crossbar does one of the best jobs out there. And I tweeted back at him and said, oh, by the way, Steve, I'm willing to relocate. That was literally how it started.
Yeah.
And he called me the next morning and said, are you serious?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, just so you know, like, I don't know if you know this, our main guy is moving on to a different job, so we're going to need a guy.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And I was over the moon thrilled. And I've never changed how I've called games. I've always had the same passion and intensity as I call games as like I played games because I'm a huge fan of the sport.
Yeah.
And I get excited no matter who scores. And obviously I kind of have to tone it down a bit when the visitors score, we're playing in Colorado. Yeah. But I remember like I got Brad Challoner and I got shit on for doing that Calgary Buffalo game, the NLL final game too. They were calling us homers. And I'm like,
for what fucking team?
I'm like, I call games for Colorado. Brad calls games for Vancouver. Like neither of our teams are in this, but I think, fans kind of got a little upset because,
you're pumped.
Well, I was pumped because like it was just a hell of a game, right?
Yeah.
So again, haters gonna hate, but that's all cool because when you got haters, you made it, as you said, right? That's a Tyson Geik-ism, I believe. So when you finally get an opportunity, you still have to take baby steps. Like you can't all of a sudden be given, like I didn't go into the job in Colorado. Okay, now I'm working for the Mammoth, which is owned by Altitude, which owns the Avalanche and which owns the Rams and which owns the Nuggets and Arsenal, all these different properties. I'm not going in there saying, oh, well, I'm in.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson now, right? I'm not just going to say, oh, put me on Altitude TV. Like, let's do this. Right?
Let me do Avs
yeah,
games.
right. Like, let me do that. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. So I still understood that I still had to bide my time and just keep my nose to the grindstone and continue to call games as best that I could. Make sure my podcast was as best that it could. Make sure my guests are knowledgeable and pertinent and bring something to the show. Like I just kept on building everything that I did, building the brand, as they say, I guess. Yeah. And I just kept the lines of communication open with the National Lacrosse League. And when Joel Feld came in, once I got the Colorado job, I was feeling confident because I was in a market that was steady. Yeah. They were never going to go anywhere. Like I'm not fearing for my job. I'm not worried that they're going to fold or move, or like I'm
it allows
set,
you to do
right?
you.
Right. And it allows me to be me. Like they love everything that I bring to the table. They appreciate all the advice and insight that I give. And they're always coming to me for highlights and voiceover work and all that stuff. And that just continues to show that I've proven myself. But once Joel Feld came in and saw what I was doing, and Matt Hutchinson from the Cronky Sports group, who is the Mammoth Board of Governor member. He went to bat for me with the league. And Joel Feld and I have created an unbelievable relationship. And he has just put his faith in me and some of the others that they rely on to continue to bring information and content and give them a continued professional feel towards everything they do. So it's been a phenomenal ride. The draft was something I never thought I'd be able to do, especially being a Western guy. Like I never thought they'd fly a guy from Victoria to Philadelphia to call a draft. Like that was never in the cards. I always thought, it was going to be Steven Stamp. He was always going to be their guy because the drafts were always going to to be in the East. Like they're never going to do a draft
Oakville
out rarely, right?
Then,
Or Oakville, right? Like, so they had their guys. And, I don't want to use it as an excuse, but I often say that at times I got looked over because I was on the island and I wasn't willing to leave the island at the time. And part of that is true. Like I love island life. I love being able to golf all year round and be able to swim in the water, climb a mountain, go skiing, play golf all in one day if I wanted to.
Best place to live.
Not that I ever would, because
love it.
Weird. But I always kind of had that feeling. And when I got reassured from Joel that I'm being rewarded for my work and not because they want me to relocate or it's because I live on the island that I wasn't getting a job or that. Right? Like, yeah. And that just gives me the reassurance again that I'm doing the right thing. So when they talked to me about Vegas, like I'd kind of put it in Joel's ear a little bit because, it kind of made sense being a Colorado San Diego game that I would be there, but it's a San Diego home game. So it's their game to call, and I would never take that away from those guys because that's their game. But when he invited me to come down and be a part of the broadcast with Devin, and we're going to do some pre and post stuff, maybe a little bit of halftime, it's going to be phenomenal. I just another opportunity to help grow this game and make all of our broadcasts that much more better.
To be honest with you, like me and Tyson, we expected the call too, but I guess just being so early in the podcast, they didn't want to.
You haven't got the call yet?
Didn't want to fly us in. No, this is awkward.
It's coming, I think. The lines are crossed.
Question for you though: how did you know that you wanted to do this? Like, and this is a question for Tyson too, because you guys are kind of in the same, genre.
I was always into sports broadcasting. Like I'm a huge wrestling guy.
Yeah.
Was it you?
I'm like Jim Ross, like Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon, back in the day, like Vince McMahon, like all that. That was
the boys.
that was the best, right? Like I just loved that stuff, and I loved listening to Don Cherry and Howie Meeker, and like those guys brought in. Chris Berman was like my idol. Like I still have so many old highlight tapes of Chris Berman rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and all that stuff. Like that just made me want to be on TV. That shit, right? Like
no idea.
When you get to be a complete personality and be yourself and have fun with it, I always knew I wanted to do that.
And what a rush it is, right? Going, like I get this with the Canucks, you're kind of walking through those doors and it's just like an incredible feeling. Like there's nothing for me that is anything like that. It's just like the best drug there possibly is. Like, I get such a rush from showing up every night and doing that job and, you know, walking away. And
not a lot of people get to see the things that we see behind the scenes.
No,
you know,
it's
you get
so
to
cool.
go, you know, the back entrance of Rogers, you get to go in the tunnel, you get to go all the way to the press box and the catwalk. Like, you get to go all over the arena when you, like, I can literally, if I wanted to, walk in a Pepsi Center through any, like, staff door, screen my pass, and walk in. I could go to a Avs game, Nuggets game. I could go to concerts. Like, if I wanted to, you'll get in trouble.
okay.
You'll get a little reprimand.
But your pass gets you that.
But
is what you're saying.
right. But yeah, my pass gets me in through all those doors. So like, I could really go in so many places within Pepsi Center that nobody would ever get to.
Yeah.
We need to put that to the test on an episode where you go up to like a concert and scan it and it just doesn't work. You're like, oh fuck.
It was funny enough because last year or 2 years ago, it was during the off season. And all of a sudden, a check showed up at my door. I was like, it's been like 3 months since I've called a Mammoth game. Why am I getting a check? So I called Dan Carey, who was GMing at the time, and I said, what's up with this, man? And he's like, I don't know, let me look into it. So he called me back the next day. He goes, you weren't in town last weekend, were you? I was like, no. He goes, someone signed in with your pass card and went to a game or something like that. And so they got docked for working, or they got paid for working. And they thought it was you. I'm like, sick. He's like, tear up the check.
Yeah, like, you should have.
Damn it.
You should have cashed it.
But again,
yeah.
you know, you gotta
How much was that check for?
like $450 American.
Not bad.
I would have cashed it and, you know, begged for forgiveness if they caught
Yeah,
me.
I probably should have done that, but
He wouldn't be where he is now doing stuff
Right?
with the NLL if he
Right.
did.
Yeah,
That's where he would have got out.
you know, for you know, talking about persistence and having the access to behind the scenes stuff for all those people that want to get in this industry, just bide your time. Don't try and jump the queue.
No, that's it.
there-
Trust the process.
Yes, there are the odd people that will be able to naturally make that jump from like right out of school, and they're just so talented and charismatic and personable that right away they make it.
Or even without that, sometimes the right person
Right
just,
place, right time.
yeah.
Anybody who comes to mind.
They don't have to be the right person, but they're the person in the right place at the right time.
Anybody who comes to mind. For me, I think that Kyle Bukakis guy, he's been around. Is that his name?
Yeah. Well,
Bukowskis, yes. But he's insane at what he
good.
does.
He's
It's
good when
22.
he's been on the air for how long? He looks like he's 12 years old.
But he doesn't come to mind to me because like at 22, that kid was crushing it like he
Okay,
was
so the guy
47.
that
he jumped.
The guy that comes to mind for me, and he is great at what he does now because he's been doing it for so long, is Shanny.
Okay.
So when The Rock first got on TV, they just needed somebody. And I can't remember, Shanny and I have talked about this. I can't remember the exact details, but he happened to be in the right place at the right time. And they said, you're not playing anymore. Do you want to call games with Joe Bowen? And he's been Lacrosse's biggest
since?
advocate and voice ever since.
Yeah.
And, you know, if he wasn't in that right place at the right time, it could have been somebody else.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't tweeted at Steve Govett, I may not have the Colorado job. So a lot of it is talent and persistence. Some of it is just networking and who you know.
That's it, man.
And if you're not networking in our industry, if you're not sending out resumes and sending out emails and just messaging people and say, hey, this is what I do. I know you kind of do the same thing. You got any tips?
all it takes is one, right? Is like you can get, and it's so hard doing what we do. And I think this weighs on me a lot of the time with the stuff that I'm doing. I've worked so hard at it, but you get rejected or not even responded
Rejection
to. And
sucks.
like it sucks.
No response is even worse.
Oh my God. Like someone probably opened up your demo reel and said, fuck this guy. See you later, right? Next. And they don't even respond. Like you're not even worth a response. And like to feel worthless like that, and I know you shouldn't. And it's like, you have to grow that thick skin, but to feel worthless and not get those breaks and stuff, it fucking hurts.
So here's my first break in the radio industry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Columbia. I graduated from Columbia Academy. I'm working at Team 1040, but again, I'm up in the morning shows. I'm doing overnights, but I'm still sending out demos and resumes to every small town from BC to Manitoba. I don't want to go past Manitoba. That's just kind of where I was. And so I end up getting a call back from a girl from Terrace at the radio station in Terrace. And she's like, we're really interested in you. Can you do a second interview? Great. Do a second interview. Great. She loved it. All is good. I talk with the HR people. Everything's good. I do my final interview. Everything's great. You've passed with flying colors. All our people like you. This is great. Hopefully you'll hear from us a couple days. I'm shopping for winter jackets with a buddy. We're going to go up to Whistler. And my phone rings. So I'm like, holy shit, this is the call I've been waiting for. So I step outside and she's like, yeah, we're going to give you the job. Congratulations. You got the job up in Terrace. I'm like, holy shit, my first legit, I got my job at 1040 because I started interning there. So I just rolled in. But this is like my first radio job. I'm going to be it's a double station, so I'm going to do mornings on the rock station, afternoons on the country station, double dip. It's going to be wicked. Yeah. So I go to work, give my 2 weeks notice. I go to my apartment, give them my month's notice that I'm leaving. I'm starting to arrange all my affairs and all that. And then all of a sudden I get a call from the girl. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't offer you the job anymore.
What?
I said, pardon? She goes, well, I was taking over for her.
Called the wrong name.
She got promoted from her job to program director. So now she was making the calls, but she didn't know because she was part of a larger company that she didn't have final say. And so
you have to be kidding me.
So the final say came from, I think might have been Chorus. Mm-hmm. So the head guy was in Kelowna for them. And so he hated my demo and he hated how I sounded on radio. And so she didn't check with him. And he's like, no.
Yikes.
No, his demo was terrible. And so now I got to go ask my job back, tell my landlord that I'm not leaving. And the guy's like, so the girl was like, here, so we're going to reopen the position. I'm like, are you kidding me? She's like, we're going to reopen the position till Monday. Can you get us another demo?
So you have to redo it?
So I got to redo my demo. So I redo my demo and I send it in and she's like, okay, great, thanks. It's awesome. I appreciate it. So I called the head guy like that Monday.
Yeah.
And I said, what the hell is going on? He goes, you know what? If you would have sent me the demo you just sent me now first, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I was like, he's like, your first demo was junk.
Wow.
I'm like, but she loved it. And she just hired me. He goes, she doesn't have final say.
It just goes to show, though, that I've been in these shoes before with professional sports organizations where I felt that certain people wanted me, but there's always that extra chef in the kitchen who maybe has that final say that is looking for something that you don't have, right? That maybe you didn't grow up in that market or you don't look a certain way.
Or you don't sound right.
You don't get it to them. And that's it. So to 5 other people and in your position, the one girl who gave you the job, you could have it all, but
she's like, I feel so sorry. This is my first hire and my first position. She's like, I can't offer you the job anymore. I'm like,
you just messed up my life a little bit.
So wasted that night because I was in literally it was all in the same day. It was, you got the job.
Yeah.
Job, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. Apartment, I'm giving it up. Great. Let's go figure it all out. 3 hours later, I can't offer you the job.
So stick with it is the moral of the story.
Yeah, so there's going to be doors that get slammed in your face. There's going to be times where you get looked over for other people that you think are less qualified than you, not as good as you. But you have to realize that what you bring to the table may not be what other people are looking for. And that is a huge part of our industry, is whether it's your look, your sound, what you're able to discuss and talk about, your professionalism, all those things go into account. So you can't just base yourselves on what you've done in the past. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So for you guys, before you go on air, before you go on TV, either you guys get nervous?
Oh, you can see I'm sweating.
Or relate
it's not just because of light. I sweat. I am a sweater. And sometimes it's nerves.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the heat. Sometimes it's my anxiety. And sometimes it's all that stuff. But I was always, whether I played, whether I'm calling games, there's nerves all the time.
Yeah. Anything that you tell yourself before you go on, right? Any rituals like that you would bring that you bring from, your sports background before you go on air? Do you tie your shoes a certain way?
My first couple of years of calling Shamrock games, after I had stopped playing, I was still bringing up a liter bottle of Gatorade, a Red Bull, and a Power Bar, and I would slam half the Gatorade, pour the Red Bull in, eat the Power Bar, wait an hour, and then right before the game started, chug the rest of the Gatorade.
Do you mix Powerade and Red Bull?
1,000%.
We need to create Like,
It's actually Gatorade. and Red
what
Bull.
are we gonna call it? It's like Teddy's drink. We're gonna create it now, and it's gonna be sold in gas stations like Pink Whitney.
Turn up Teddy's.
Turn up Teddy's.
Teddy's turn up.
Teddy's turn up. There you go. Hey, we're starting it right now.
Yeah.
New Amsterdam, if you want to have a non-alcoholic beverage.
Go with your Pink Whitneys.
We're not very expensive right now.
I think, you know, when I go to do it, one of my biggest things, and this, I fucking hate auditions still to this day. They're way worse than actually getting in there and doing the job. Like, way more nervous in front of a small crowd like that because you know what's on the line. But my knee would shake and still kind of like, it's gone away now a little bit more. But
nervous twitch.
I definitely still get nervous, you know,
it shaking.
before. No, I'm not shaking at all. I don't know what's happening.
Earthquake?
Yeah, maybe. We're on the West Coast.
I am the same way. Like, I'll catch myself when Shuey and I are doing pre-games or when we're on camera. I can feel my left leg shaking. And
Yeah.
it's just a nervous twitch, and
It's good to have those things, but it's funny how far you come, and the more reps you get, the better you get at it. So this happened Canucks game like a couple, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm kind of in the room, and I guess this game I have a time. I know what time, like 6:22 is my first hit every day, but I guess it was bumped up a little bit. So I'm down. I'm kind of strolling out in the arena, super slow. And I hear in my earpiece, you're up in a minute. And I'm at the Olympia tunnel, which is like where the Zamboni comes out. And this is like other side of the arena to the side. My first hit of the game. I'm like pushing people out of the way. Gotta go, whatever. So out of breath, dry mouth. And I gotta go, and then he's like, bam, you're up. And I did it with like, I don't want to say with ease because inside I'm dying. And I'm like, just get through this. But I pulled it off and I'm walking up the stairs and be like, you're natural, man. I'm like, I don't feel like it.
Remember Drafted?
Of course. How could I forget?
How could we forget? So
that's how we actually became friends.
With the non-drafted family.
Yeah, shafted by drafted. I'm probably still feeling the effects of writing that article, but
so when we were filming the first night of all being chosen, we had to do this little challenge, and one of the challenges was we had to answer 5 random questions. And then for every one that we got wrong, we had to do 10 push-ups. I got 4 of them wrong. So I had to do 40 push-ups like on the spot. I had worked out in a year or whatever. So I like rattled out. And I'm in like a dress shirt and pants. So I rattle off these 40 push-ups. Yep. Massive pits. Then we had to run out the hallway in the elevator, up 3 floors, down a hallway, and then go read a prompter screen.
Yeah.
I literally, as soon as the elevator doors open, I bolted down this like 50-yard hallway, turned a corner, went to the prompter. She's like, do you want to read it over? I'm like, no, let's go. And so starts reading, and I'm like, Jose Altuve had done the home run and the Blue Jays. And I remember like I was so out of breath.
Yeah.
You're fired.
And I remember going back. I remember watching.
This is like a competition. It's like much VJ search for like sports broadcasters. Yeah.
And so I remember like I was so out of breath, and we had to do another challenge and go back down. And I remember when they aired it, and Greg Sansoni was behind the scenes watching. And they have him mic'd up, and he's saying, "Teddy, take a goddamn breath." I was so tired from running 50 yards, but the lesson that I learned was don't ever run before you're about to be on a microphone. Right? Like little things you learn.
Still doing it, but
and that show was a crazy experience that I learned tons about myself, about the industry. I got to experiencing some incredible things. I'm forever grateful for that chance. But yeah, that was a bad moment for me. bad moment for me.
a dark time.
Right.
A real dark time.
Guys, we got a hard out for Tyson at 3:00, and it's 2:59 right now.
Shut up. We've talked that long.
We've talked that long.
Haven't even talked about lacrosse.
I got one more analyst question for you guys, kind of just to leave on. What current player right now do you think that has a chance of leaving behind a legacy such as Gate, Grant, Tavares, in your guys' opinion, guys who watch the game?
This is what comes up in the GC Media House, Guy Clark, if you're wondering. No, but we're just like sitting around talking. Colt's like, who do you think is going to leave the game and be like Junior? So
I didn't say just him, just for the record.
Well, so in 10 years, who's the guy we're talking about?
Exactly, yeah.
That's still in the game.
Or do you think that the game has so many talents at the same level right now that it's kind of, there isn't that just one standout
Is
guy?
Graham Hossick getting there? Because he's been brought up on this
team,
podcast
like
every time.
you look at a Mark
ridiculous.
Matthews, he also has a Ben McIntosh and a Robert Church that are,
Yeah, but you put Matthews on any team and he's gonna
true. But
not
you
taking
put either one of those
away
other
from
two.
McIntosh
But
or Church.
well, let's pick a player.
I think if he can stay healthy in the next 5-10 years, I still think Mark Matthews is around schooling fools.
Yeah.
Just because his body is so big and he's so naturally skilled. And I don't know, like I played with Junior, and I don't think I've seen too many people since Junior to now Mark that can take one step inside that dotted line or the line and rip a shot and beat a goalie top corner. Like he does it consistently still. And it's phenomenal to watch. And Junior used to do it all the time. I think Mark has an incredible future ahead of him. I think Lyle has an incredible future ahead of him. But like you said, Cole, the amount of talent that's coming into our league every year, and every rookie class seems to producing more and more filthy young players.
Yeah.
And that's only going to allow our game to continue to evolve. And I don't think we'll ever see anybody break JT's record. I don't think that's ever going to be touched. No. Literally, you're going to have to play 25 years. And as our league gets longer and more physical, I don't think guys are going to have that longevity. So, if you're looking at like an Evie, could he play 5 more years and probably be in that category for sure? Dan Dawson, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can get a couple more years out of Dawson and Evie, and they're going to be top 5 all time forever. But
to have that consideration that like your name is up there beside John Grant and Tavares and Gady, because those are the
two guys. Those are the two guys that will, like in the next group of next greats.
Yeah,
it's Evie and Dawson. Because those are two guys that have been playing in our league for the longest out of who's playing in our league now. Those are two who are still active in the scoring races. I think Dawson and Evie will go down as two of the best right-handers. It's probably going to be a really strong argument over who is the better right-hander of all time because they're vastly different players. But of the next group of all-time greats, it's those two. You're going to throw Vino in that mix. And then probably your next group are like the Matthews and the Dixons and the Thompsons and the Hossicks, but
Cody Jamieson.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna forget her name.
Yeah,
Jammer is phenomenal.
Shame on
and
you.
if he didn't have to deal with those injuries, man.
Yeah, and you can look at a lot of like look at a guy like Jesse King. Like that guy cannot catch a break.
Yeah,
right. Like every time he's about to really reach his potential, something bad happens to him. And I'm not saying he's of that echelon, but he's a guy that could be just like Jammer if it wasn't for all those injuries. Like, we're going to talk about Doby for years. We're going to talk about Jammer for years. But the next group of guys that are all-time greats, it's Dawson and Evie by a landslide.
Hard out.
Hard out. All
solid.
right. Teddy, thank you.
We could go on for like 2 hours.
Gentlemen, I didn't even get to ask you about your picks. We'll have them on again.
Thanks for listening to the Strip Podcast. Catch a new episode every Wednesday. We're giving away prizes every week. Follow along with our social channels at Lacrosse Flash.